Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday, maybe even Friday, depending on where you're currently located. Super excited to have you all join us for another exciting Circuit Stream workshop. As with our workshop last week, this one's a little different. Unlike all of our Unity-related ones, today we'll be focusing on the Unreal Engine. So I'm super excited to get this going. But before I continue on, hey, Manish, great to see you in the chat there. As with Manish and Rahman, please let me know in the chat if you can all hear me and see me. Hello, Christopher, Ahmed, and Kane, Eldon, Cash, Prabhu, Ron, Simona, James, Dana, Sam. Great to see you all. Daryl, great to see you on another workshop. Loud and clear, awesome. Hey, thank you everyone for letting me know. I can see you're very familiar with the chat function there, so feel free to add any comments you would like, chat amongst yourselves, support each other with some questions. If there are any answers you can offer there, toss in your LinkedIn profiles, whatever you would like in this chat. Feel free to use it as you wish. But beside the chat tab, if you look at the top, there is also a questions tab. If you have any questions, please toss them into the questions tab. It helps us easily track what has come in, what we haven't answered, what to get to. We'll try and answer some questions throughout this workshop and webinar. But at the very end, we will have a more in-depth Q&A session for any of the workshops, or questions that we might not get to throughout, as Jerry is doing the Unreal and AR work presenting there. Now, beside the questions tab, there is also a polls tab. And I'll be throwing in and tossing in polls throughout this webinar just to gauge the experience of the audience. And I'm actually going to toss in a poll right now just to see if you guys can find that there. So the poll is being published now, and I'm curious to know, what industry are you interested in or a part of to potentially apply some of the things you learned today, whether it's Unity, Unreal work. I'd love to know. So I'm just going to check if you have found that polls tab there. What industry? Looks like there have been no answers there, but take your time. We would love to know where, what industry you might be working with. So I've got healthcare AR, and for Asar, everyone please mute so the instructor can be heard. Asar and anyone else in the audience here, there is a little bell icon beside the chat to the left there. If you click that bell icon, all of the kind of popping in chat sounds will go away for you all. So with this, I'm just going to see the votes. Oh, we did get some votes for industry, gaming, film, education. It looks like the vast majority are in gaming and film, which are two probably of the biggest things that you can use with Unreal there. But without further ado, let's get going with this workshop and webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us again. My name is Stefan, and I'm part of the education team here at Circuit Stream. So I myself am located in Calgary, Canada, and typically we have people joining us from all over the world, Europe, Asia, the US, Canada, South America. So would love to know where you're currently tuning in from. We have colleagues located in South America, in the US, in Canada, in Asia, and Europe as well. So very curious to know. We have PAX here from Boulder, Colorado, some from Texas, Dubai, Germany, San Francisco, Canada as well, Singapore, England. So people from all over the world again. Hey, great to have you all with us. Now, for those of you who are, located abroad, this is all recorded and will be sent out to you when this workshop wraps up. So we'll send you the recording, all of the project files and assets. So if it is quite late for you, no worries. Feel free to go grab dinner, get some sleep. If you're waking up in the morning for work, feel free to continue on. But you will receive the recording and files for all of the stuff that we cover today. And great question, Tim. I'm going to hop into the agenda here, but today's workshop is going to be about an hour and a half long. Really depends how long the Q&A session at the very end lasts and how many questions we get for everyone there. But without further ado, my name is Stefan, and I'm part of the education team here at Circuit Stream. I have over 7 years of experience in the tech industry, working with travel IT companies, learning management system providers, ERP and business integration platforms, and now in the beautiful and lovely world of AR, VR, and MR, or XR, the umbrella term for these three concepts there. And a little interesting icebreaker, in fact, about myself. I was a member of Water Polo Canada, trained with the 2008 Beijing Olympic team. I was just a wee boy back in the day, so never actually got to go to the Olympics, but a great experience nonetheless. Now, today I will also be joined by Jerry Medeiros, and it's truly a pleasure and an honor to have Jerry join us and leading the AR aspects in Unreal in about 5-10 minutes here. Jerry is our head of education here at CircuitStream. He has over 11 years of industry experience, a master in science, web science informatics, semantic web and information retrieval, and all of this is bundled with games technology and interaction design. He's an expert in both Unity and Unreal, so it's truly a pleasure and an honor to have him join us today and to lead the AR aspect of Unreal in about 5 minutes here. So with this, I do also want to mention, because there are a lot of people located abroad, we're actually hosting a workshop next week around the introduction to HoloLens 2 and AR development with Unity. So for those of you located abroad in Asia, Europe, wherever else, we're holding a workshop next week. There are 2 options for the Middle Eastern and Central Europe folks, as well as the Far East and Oceania. I'm going to toss in a link right now for those of you who are interested in joining at a more convenient hour, and you can find that in the chat. But let's get going here. So for today's, we're going to be covering AR in Unreal Engine 4. And I'm going to take about less than 10 minutes, about 5 minutes to do an introduction here. Then I'll invite Jerry onto the stage to do a deep dive of creating your own AR project using the Unreal Engine 4. This will take about 45 minutes or so. I'll come back, wrap things up with some resources, which will take about 5-10 minutes. And then we'll open it up for an in-depth live Q&A session. And could last up to 45 minutes, could last 15 minutes. Really depends on the questions that we have coming in. Now, again, this all will be recorded. The recording will be sent out to you to review later on, as well as the project files that Jerry uses to create the experience. So for today, feel free to follow along. But I would suggest, sit back, relax, soak this all in, ask questions if you have any questions, and then you can use the recording on your own time and the project files to really work with the Unreal Engine in creating your own AR project as well. So sit back, relax, ask questions, soak it in, and enjoy everything. Ask questions, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. Now, a little bit about us here at CircuitStream, who we are. We're a team of about 20 coming from all different backgrounds and industries, now working together to promote AR, VR, Unity, and Unreal to everyone around the world. Again, from North America, South America, Europe, and Asia, we have colleagues all over and would be happy to, connect with you all depending on where you are. Now, CircuitStream is an education company. We teach people how to build, develop, manage, implement VR, AR, and MR experiences, whether it's with Unity or Unreal. And these are just some of the happy people we've had join us in our courses and programs to learn more about creating their own VR, AR experiences in different creation engines out there, from Hulu to the America's Navy, Deloitte, various universities and colleges, Hershey's, the chocolate company. So, people from all walks of life. It's not just for gaming. You can really apply this to all different areas out there. Now, for those of you looking to take this a step further later on, our courses do come with private weekly live one-on-one sessions. But if you're not interested in diving into some of our longer in-depth courses, we do also have private live one-on-one sessions with one of our experts like Jerry, Cash in the audience, anyone else really who's looking to meet with our team, get support on a project, accelerate the development of their project, or focus on some career goals. And I'll touch up on that a little later on as to what you can expect there. And if there are some members in the audience looking to really focus on the Unreal Engine or anything AR, VR related, we have team training opportunities as well. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions around those. I'll toss a link with some of our current courses that we're offering if you're interested in checking it out. It's in the chat. Feel free to check it out, but let's continue on. So today we'll be focusing on the Unreal Engine and creating your own augmented reality project and application within it. So I'm going to toss in another poll here. And I would love to know, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being I've never heard of Unreal before, 10 being, I'm the Jedi Master, part of the Mandalorian, crew that uses the Unreal Engine as their backgrounds. Let me know, how much experience do you have with Unreal? I'm publishing the poll now. 0, I've never heard of Unreal. 10, I'm an expert in Unreal. So it looks like that we have quite a few beginners, if I'm not mistaken. And that's all right. This is a beginner-friendly workshop. And I'm sure those of you who are more advanced can take something out of this or ask some questions to Jerry to help highlight those for you. So for those of you who said 0, what is Unreal? Or specifically, we're going to be focusing on the Unreal Engine. Hey, everybody. Hey, Jerry. Sorry about that, guys. My internet crashed. Of course, doing a live workshop and webinar, my connection would be lost. Hello again. Terribly sorry for that. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Let me just adjust my focus here. Hopefully, this doesn't happen again. Fingers crossed. I'm terribly sorry for this. But let me share my screen here again. So I was talking about must be Unreal. You got me there, Dario. But I was talking about what Unreal is. And as I mentioned, Unreal is a free, complete suite of creation tools for various different things. This can be for game development, architectural and automotive visualization, linear film and television content creation, broadcast and live event production, training and simulation, XR, and other real-time applications. So you can really use this engine for a wide variety of different industries, as I had just mentioned there. And how does one person actually go about creating their own project or experience using the Unreal Engine? Well, you have an idea and you bring this idea into a creation engine like Unreal, or potentially Unity if you are focusing on Unity. And if we're going to talk about Unreal, you create your experience in Unreal, you optimize it, then you use an SDK and push it out to one of the relevant headsets that you had wanted to create it for, or devices, right? Mobile experience, this is also possible as well. But again, you have an idea, you develop it in Unreal, you push it out with an SDK to a headset, and then voila, you can see your experience and other people can play around it as well. But what are you going to learn today? Well, today we'll be showing you how to set up an AR project in Unreal, how to work with image recognition, how to use image targets, and the best practices on how to create good image markers. Now, today is all about an introduction to augmented reality development in Unreal. So as as Jerry, is making his way onto the stage here, I'm going to share a couple of videos for you all, because my internet connection died, threw me off my groove here, but I do want to share a video with you all just to give you a flavor as to what to expect the Unreal Engine being. So I'm going to toss in about a minute video, which is going to be from Tim Sweeney. He's the CEO of Epic Games, and he's going to talk about the Unreal Engine here a little bit. So I'm going to share the video with you all. And then following that, I might toss in another video just to show you the capabilities and the power of the Unreal Engine as well. So here's one from Tim Sweeney talking about the Unreal Engine, and then I'm going to show you another video for Unreal and all the content kind of creators out there.
Tim Sweeney, the founder of Epic Games, creators of the Unreal Engine. Through 4 generations, we've provided tools and technology empowering developers to realize their creative visions. With Unreal Engine 4, we're taking revolutionary steps to open the engine up to the world. As of today, we're making Unreal Engine 4 freely available for everybody to download and use. Unreal Engine 4 is freely available for game development, for education, for VR, for film, or for any other form of creative expression you can dream up. And you can ship your project commercially with a 5% royalty to Epic. It's a business model open to everybody, and one in which we succeed only when you succeed. So come to UnrealEngine.com, download the software, and start creating.
Hey, the Unreal Engine gives me the shivers, but I'm going to share one last video with you all because I really did love it, and to really show you how beautiful the animations can be using the Unreal Engine. And then Jerry, feel free to make your way onto the stage slowly or right after this video. It's going to be about 1 minute or 2 minutes long as well, but again, gave me the shivers when I watched it, and I'm going to toss this video in here right now, and then we'll let Jerry take it away here shortly.
Creativity lies in all of us. It's what makes us human. It starts with an idea. The desire to create, to solve, to play, to share, to interact. Together we can build new worlds. Freedom to create for all.
Woo! That was insane. And again, my camera's a little out of focus here, but with that, crazy stuff. And I don't know if it's a little creepy that I had my Epic Games little pop-up saying I had some new friends added there. But without further ado, I would love to take this time to invite Jerry Medeiros onto the stage here. He's going to be taking about 30 to 45 minutes to show you how to work with the Unreal Engine and build your own augmented reality application using that. So I'm going to just wait here a little bit to see if Jerry will hop onto the stage here, because it looks like he had disappeared for a second. But there he is, the man of the hour, Jerry.
I'm back. Hello, staff. So having some trouble here with my internet as well. I hope everything goes well from now. But yeah, we're going to be fine.
Perfect. Awesome.
Cool.
Well, hey, take it away, Jerry. You're all in great hands here. Again, this is going to be about 30 to 45 minutes. Sit back, relax, kick your feet up, soak this all in, ask questions. We'll cover it at the end, and you will get these recordings and files sent to you later today when we wrap up the workshop. But take it away, Jerry.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Steph. Hello, everyone. Just let me know if you can hear me and see me well. Is it good quality? Everything just fine there? Great, perfect. All right, so before we jump into our content here, I would like to quickly show you guys what we're going to be able to build after this session. So I'm going to share here. Oh, let me minimize this. I'm going to share here my mobile phone, what is capturing. There is a little bit of a delay because of the transmission here, but the thing we're going to be building today is something that looks like this. We can have one image. So I'm just using my phone here to have this image, but it could be a printed thing. It could be a marker anywhere. And we're going to be able to place anything that we want that is tracked by that image. So in my case here, it's just this dancing character in here. We're going to be seeing how we can get those characters for free and how we can make this image tracking application. So I hope this thing gets you guys started with Unreal so you can understand the engine, understand what is possible to do in there. And then in the end, you guys are going to be able to do some other interesting things there as well. So to get started, you need to have the Epic launching in there. This is where we start Unreal from. I'm going to be using Unreal. Let me mute this thing here. I'm going to be using Unreal 4.26.1. So this is when I last updated, it was the latest version that I had in there. So I'm going to be creating a new project here so I can show you guys a couple of interesting things when we create a project in Unreal Engine. So one interesting thing, while this thing opens here, staff mentioned that Unreal is free. It is, and more than that, it's also open source. So the code of the engine is public. You can go there and check how it works, try to understand how they render things, how the menus are built and everything. And you can even modify the code and recompile that if you want to. So if you know a little bit of C++, that's an interesting adventure to take. All right, so it's taking a while here. Meanwhile, let me see if there are any questions that I can answer while this thing finishes. Ran asked, what you're doing here will be the workflow compatible with Unreal Engine 5? Yes, it's basically the same. All right, so now when I am here in this main menu where I can select projects that I already have or create new projects, we're going to be creating a new project so I can show a couple of things from scratch. One thing that I like a lot in Unreal is that they offer a couple of templates. So say, for example, you are planning to build a game. So they have a couple of templates for games in here. They have like a vehicle, VR, third person, rolling ball. So we can have like a starting point for creating a game. If we're making something for architecture, engineering, and construction, they have a couple of like a HoloLens viewer. They have like a couple of interesting archivists templates in there. So this is how most of the times it can be helpful for us to have a good starting point. So for what we're going to be building today, it doesn't really matter, but let's start with a game here and I'll show you a couple of things. They do have this handheld AR application and we could potentially use this thing, but this project is quite complex. There are lots of things going on in here. So just so you guys don't get lost, if it's the first time you're seeing Unreal, let's use the blank project and I will walk you through the interface here. So we're going to be selecting a blank and start from there. So there are a couple more things that we can select and set up here. The first one is whether we're going to be using blueprints or C++. So C++ is the programming language that Unreal accepts. So if you want to program your classes and write code in Unreal, you're going to be using C++. Today, we're going to be using the blueprint. So blueprint is basically a visual programming system where we can create our behaviors. They can be simpler or complex without any code. So actually, we just use nodes. And it's basically like a logical way of thinking, and we can get things working without code. So we're going to be using the blueprints today. We can also select whether this is going to be for a desktop, console, or mobile. So we're going to be selecting mobile here. And that's all. So we don't want starting content. We're not going to be using anything that they offer. We're not going to use any of the ray tracing because it's mobile. So that's all we need for now. And then we just need to give it a name in here. So I'm going to be calling that AR workshop. There we go. And then I will create a project. Just a reminder, after the workshop, I'm going to be sending to everyone the project files. So you can just download that and explore and modify that if you feel like. And also, we're going to be sending this recording as well, so you can rewatch that and do that in your on pace if you miss something here.
Beautiful. And hey, Jerry, just wanted to pop in here quickly. I know typically for these workshops, the resolution might be a little hard because they're streaming a stream, but the screen is a little smaller. Would it be possible to adjust that at all on your end there?
I think so. 1 sec.
All right. Just
if I can. Yeah.
And
Is that any better?
I believe it's better on my end. Let's go back to Unreal here just to check it out. So it's a little better. It's a little better. Yeah, that works. I see Ibrahim says it's better. So let's run with this, and I'll keep my eye on the chat and see if there's anything else we could do there. But thanks, Jerry.
Right,
really appreciate it. All right, take care.
All right, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I have like a ultra wide monitor, and this live stream system is not really powerful when it's transmitting the stream. So, but that's it. I think it's a little bit better. Cool. Thanks, everyone. So when we create this thing, we can see that we have this empty scene here. Unreal already created a couple of things for us. The way Unreal works, and if you guys have worked with Unity before, it's very similar. There are a couple of panels where we can manipulate our scene. So here we can see the viewport of the scene. On the left, we can create new stuff. On the right, we have here the inspector, where it's called the world outliner, where we can see the properties of the objects in our world. And here in the bottom, we have the content browser, where we're gonna have our assets, like the image, the 3D models, and everything that we wanna bring to this project. So there are a couple of things here that we don't need. So we could just like start removing them. But actually, what I prefer to do in this case is just create a new world, a new level that's empty. So let's start by doing that. I will right click here, and then we have a couple of options that we can create. I will create a new level. So that's what I'm going to be creating here, new level. And I will call it anything. We can all call that AR image, for example. So this is our new level. Now, if we open this level, we're going to see that this is completely empty. And in our case, it's good because we're going to have like in AR, what we do is basically using the camera to capture what's going on in the real world. And then we overlay that with some digital content. So most of the things are going to be the real world. We don't need to have a lot of things in here. But one thing that we need to have is a light. Otherwise, everything is going to be completely black. So the first thing I'm going to do here is select one type of light and drag it to my scene. The light I'm going to be using today is a directional light. So what is a directional light? It's basically a light that simulates the sun. It's super, super bright, and it's so far that the position doesn't matter. So if I change the position, it doesn't change anything. But the orientation, the rotation of this thing is going to change from where the objects in my scene receive the light. So just need to add directional light here, and we can work with that light a little bit later. As I said, the position doesn't really matter, but I like to keep everything consistently on the 0, 0, 0, so it's easier for me to find them later. But for the directional light, the position doesn't matter. The second thing that we want to add here is called player start. So what is a player start? This is basically what it says it is where the player is going to start later. So the player in our case is only the mobile phone with the camera, but we add this just to indicate to Unreal that we want our camera to be instantiated in a specific place. In this case, it's going to be the 0, 0, 0 as well. So I'm just telling when I start playing this, when we have the AR set up and everything ready for AR, I want my camera to start at the 0, 0, 0. So those are the two things in here that we need to have the scene set up. So now let's see a couple before we just jump into the AR portion of this. Let's see what else we need or we can customize in this project. The first thing is we need to enable it for AR. We need to make it AR ready. We need to import some plugins in here. In order to do that, we need just to go here and edit and then plugins. When we click that, Unreal is going to list for us all of the plugins available in there. There are lots of them. Everything becomes a plugin in here. And we're gonna search for AR core. Where is it? Wait. There we go. We're gonna search for Google AR core. You just double click to enter the level. Yeah, that's it. To enter the level, you just double click that. Yeah, if we're here and we want to open this level, just double click and then you get inside of the level. That's it. Thanks, Ren. And then let's go back here to edit plugins and search for Google AR Core. So what is Google AR Core? It's basically the native plugin, native SDK that exists in Android platforms for us to work with AR. So this is the plugin that is going to work on Android. It provides the image tracking, plane recognition, face recognition, and all of those things that we need to make interesting AR applications. So I just need to enable it. As soon as I click enable, it's going to ask to restart the editor. So that's necessary. I'll click on restart now. It's just going to close Unreal and open that again. And when it comes back, it's going to have AR Core enabling that. And then we might ask, well, what if I want to do that for iOS? What should I do? In this case, if you are planning to do that on iOS, you need to import ARKit instead. So ARKit is the equivalent for iOS. It's equivalent to AR Core. ARKit is actually more powerful. It has more features. But today, given that I am on a PC and I'm going to be building here on an Android, I would just import AR Core. But you can import both if you plan to build for the both platforms there. There we go. So now I have ARKit here just set up in my scene, in my project. The next thing that I want to do here, oh, there we go. The next thing that I want to do, oh, did you guys notice that when it restarted, it didn't come back to my scene, to my AR image scene. So it just went to the default one. This one thing that we can fix in Unreal, if we click to edit and then project settings, there are lots of things that can be changed here regarding the engine, regarding the project. We're going to use a couple of them later today. But the first one that we're going to be doing now is clicking on Maps and Modes. And then here we have an option to change what is the editor, or better saying, what is the level that we want to open when we open the editor. So it's just basically like the one that we use more often. In our case, we only have one scene. So we can just change from template default to AR image. That is the level we just created. So that's what we need to do in here. And we can also define when we build it to the device, which level we want to be loaded first. So in this case, we can just change here the game default map to AR image, And that's it. So now even if I close and open again, it's gonna come back to my AR image level. And when we build, it's gonna open the AR image level as well. There we go. So now we can start programming using visual programming for our AR application in here. So one thing that exists in Unreal, it's called the blueprint system. So it's basically like an easy way. Well, I cannot say it's easy. It's just easier than programming, but it's like a visual way of adding behaviors to our application. There are basically two ways of creating blueprints. So we can create blueprints that are relative to objects. If I have, for example, the character and I want to make the character move, I can just add a blueprint to that character. If I want to have like this light blinking, I can create one blueprint for that light and add it to the light. And the other way is creating a level blueprint. So what's a level blueprint? It's the blueprint that controls the entire level. Everything that is in this level, we can use this blueprint to control. So right now, let's start using this blueprint. I'm going to click here on this blueprint button and then open level blueprint. And then there we go. So this is how a blueprint looks like. How it works, it's just like programming. So if you guys are familiar with programming, it's gonna work with variables, functions, branches, loops. It's basically the same thing, but instead of writing the code, we just create nodes. By default here in a blueprint, we have two events. One is the begin play, and the other one is the event tick. So the begin play is the event that runs once when I hit play. As soon as we enter this level, it's going to run everything that is in the event begin play right here. The event tick is going to run once per frame. So if my application is running at 30 frames per second, it's going to run 30 times in 1 second. If it's running 60 times per second, it's going to run this thing 60 times in 1 second. So basically, we use the begin play to initialize things, create variables, set up initial values, and we event tick to process logic that needs to be processed frequently. So if I want to check input, we need to do that in the event tick, for example, because I can press a key at any time. So those are the two events that are very useful for us here, and we're going to be using them in a while. The first thing I want to do when we are dealing with an AR application, we will need to request the permission for the user to access the camera and actually start that camera. So that's the first thing we're going to be doing. And this is based on one node that's called Start AR Session. So AR Session is the object that controls the entire life cycle of an AR application. We're going to right-click here. So there are two different ways of creating nodes or to adding new nodes to the blueprint. The first one is right-clicking and then searching for what nodes we want to use. And you guys can see that there are lots of nodes in here. So we're not going to use most of them today, but you guys can explore what they are in a while. And then we're going to search for Start AR Session and just click on that. So now I have this node here, which is called Start AR Session. One thing that we need to notice is that every time we create a node, it's going to have one execution path and some configurations that are based on this specific node. So in our case here, the Start AR Session, it requires a session config. So we need to provide the session config in a while here. And another thing is, just because I created this node here, it doesn't mean that it's going to start executing. We need to pass an executing line here. So I need to say that every time that it's the event begin play, or meaning that when I click play, I want to connect the play right here. So now I'm saying that this line is what makes the Start AR Session run. So it runs this, like when I hit play, it just runs the event begin, and then it comes here and start the AR session. So that's everything that we need to do here to start our AR session. And this is gonna already request the camera access and everything there. One thing that I like to do here in Unreal that helps me to organize my nodes just to see what is going on later is create comment boxes. So if I select those two guys here, just like drag my mouse here and select those two, I can press the C as in comment, and I can create here, for example, Start AR Session. So this is just like a box that tells me what this group is doing. And later on, when we have like lots of nodes here, you guys are gonna see that this is very, very useful. All right, so now we need to create the session config so we can provide it here to the Start AR Session. Let's see how we can do it. I'm gonna go back here to our project. Just minimize this, or actually close this. Oh no, I closed everything. I'm sorry. Oh, 1 second. I thought I was closing just the blueprints, but I actually closed the entire project. Meanwhile, let me see here if there are any questions that I can answer while it gets back. AR workshop, there we go. I do that sometimes too. Yeah, that interface is a little bit confusing, right? The buttons are always closed. There we go. I think I am back here. Tim has a good question. Can you develop iOS on a PC? Yes, actually you can develop, but you cannot test. It's not possible to build it to the iPhone or iPad from a PC. You actually need to be on a Mac because you need to use Xcode to do the final deployment. So it's possible to develop, but not to test. All right, I'm back here. So let me open my blueprint again, and let's start from where we left off. So actually, this is all we need here. Now, the other step that we were doing is basically creating our session config. So just creating our session config here. To create that, we need to create an asset in our project. So the way we do it is we right-click, and then we click on Miscellaneous. So here, every time we right-click on the content browser, this is where we can create all sorts of assets in there. So we can create audio files, we can create 3D models, animations, and everything. There is this tab called Miscellaneous where we can create like random things, like different things that couldn't fit in any other category. And here is basically where we create the config. So it's going to be under data asset. Once we click on Miscellaneous data asset, it's gonna ask us which kind of asset we want to create. And this time, right now, we want to create an AR session config. So I would just select this and name it anything. So I call that session config, for example. So what is the session config? This is an object that is gonna provide us, if I double click it, it provides to us all of the settings that can be turned on and off regarding AR in Unreal. So we have here, for example, basic AR sessions. We have word mapping, occlusion, plane, faces. So everything we turn on or off here in this tab. And today, we're going to be doing only image tracking. So we're going to be placing things. We're going to be changing this image tracking session. But before we start modifying it, let's go back to our blueprint and provide this session config to our start session node. So I'm going to click here again on my blueprint, open level blueprint. We already have this, which is basically the start AR session. And as I mentioned, it requests a session config. So I just click here and pass the session config to it. So given that the session config was created, it's going to exist right here. And that's it. Now, if I just build this application, and I'm not going to do that right now because it takes a long while to build, it's going to request the camera and open the camera. And that's it. Nothing is going to happen, but it's going to request the camera there. All right. So now we need to start providing what are the images that we wanted to track, right? So before we jump into Unreal, I would like to bring a piece of documentation here just to show you guys something. This is the documentation for the AR core in this is that documentation for AR core in Unreal. So there are lots of useful information here. I personally don't think it's detailed enough. Like it's not a good, it's a good starting point, but there are not lots of information here. But what I would like to highlight in here, a couple of things. The first one is how many images can be tracked simultaneously. So there's a hard limit at 20 here. If there are more than 20 images being tracked at the same time, it's going to stop tracking one of those. So it can only track 20 images at a time. But those 20 images can be selected from a database with 1,000 images. So we can configure up to 1,000 images, but it's only going to track 20 simultaneously. So this is the first thing that we need to keep in mind here. The second thing is regarding the quality of the image. So in order to track, the image needs to be at least at 25% of the camera frame. So if it's too small, it's not gonna track. It needs to have at least 25% of the image, which is good. Like it's not super big. It can be like medium size, and it's gonna be fine. It needs to be flat. So if you fold the image for some reason, or if it's not like in a flat surface, it's not gonna work. So it says here it's not gonna work around a bottle, for example. So unfortunately, this at this point, it only works with flat images. And it needs to be clear. Like you cannot have anything in front of it. It cannot be angled or blurred. So it's not gonna work on those conditions. And the other thing is regarding the selection of the image. So you can use basically any image that you want, but there are a couple of conditions to make the tracking good. The first one is using at least 300 by 300 pixels as a resolution. So it's the minimum. If it's less than that, the tracking is going to be poor. The second one is using PNG or JPEG. So it basically uses both when we are configuring things. This is super important. Color is not used. So it doesn't matter how many colors your image is using here. For the tracking system, it's going to look at that image as a grayscale thing. So it's just basically black and white. So it doesn't use color information to track. It suggests that we don't use heavy compression. And this is the most important thing. We should not be using images that have low features or repeating geometric patterns, because the image tracking is going to be confused. So there are two examples here. This one is a bad image for tracking because there are lots of repeating patterns here, lots of like geometric patterns, and it's going to score low. And this one is a good one because there are lots of contrast. The image is completely different. I can know if this image is rotated because this feature doesn't exist in any other place. So just as a reminder, we need to be able to detect the orientation of this image. So if I have a square, for example, well, if I rotate the square, it just looks the same. So we need to be careful while we are selecting images in there. So basically, that's it. That's what I would like to show here. And now let's start getting one image. So you might have like the logo of your company, or maybe, well, some nice image in there. The one I'm using for today is this one. It's quite big, and there are lots of contrast in here. You can see that there are no patterns, so this one would work just great. If you want to use any other image, that's okay. You can use any image that we prefer in there. So I'm just going to save this on my desktop. Oh, it's already saved. I'll just replace that. And we're going to bring that into Unreal. So how do I bring things into Unreal? It's just dragging it there. So I will create a new folder here just to keep things organized, and I'll call it image. And drag my image. Oh, wait. Where is this? Here we go. And import my image here. So now we have an image. You can bring as many images as you want. If you want to have more, that's okay. But the thing is, this image is just a texture. It's just a 2D texture. This is not what the AR core and the AR kit are going to use to find the image in the world. So what we need to do here is basically click on content and create one other type of asset, which is called an image candidate. So I'm going to create here another folder just to keep things organized and call that image candidates. Oh, we cannot have spaces in folders. So it needs to be image candidates with no spaces. And then I'm going to be creating one asset here. I would right click, miscellaneous again, data asset again, but this time, instead of creating AR session config, I'm going to be creating AR candidate image. So for each one of the images you guys want to track, you need to first create this AR candidate image here. So I'll just double click it and select, and now I will call this dancer, for example. So now I have this asset that represents an image candidate. If we double click it, there are a couple of settings that we can do. The first one is select the texture. So right now the candidate texture is known, it's just null. I'll click here on known and then select it. And there we go, there we go. Then you can add a friendly name. So this friendly name, we can later retrieve in the blueprints just to say, if this is dancer, instantiate that object. If this is the moon, instantiate the other object. So we can identify what is being tracked if we just give it a friendly name. So I'm gonna call that dancer as well. And here we have something super important, which is basically the width and the height. So those are the dimensions of the physical tracker. So if we're gonna print that in a big frame, you need to say what are the dimensions here. If we're gonna use like a smaller thing on your mobile phone, you need to say it. And this is important because if you don't do it, if you don't add it here, AR Core is gonna estimate that, and usually it doesn't work that well. So the tracking might be a little bit weird with some delays. So this is an important configuration. Let's assume here, as I was demonstrating in the video, I'm gonna project that in the other phone. So this is probably something like 10 by, I don't know, let's say I'm gonna put that in the center. It's gonna be like 8 by 8. And this is in centimeters. Is it? Yeah, the physical width in centimeters. So I'm just gonna say this is 8 by 8 centimeters here. Oh, and then there is a nice thing. So when I provided one dimension, my image is not square. So it's just like recalculating the other dimension based on it. So that's okay. You just need to provide one dimension. It's going to calculate the other based on the aspect ratio of this image. And that is it. So now I have here my image candidate. The next step is telling our session config to actually use this candidate that we created. If we just create it, it's not gonna work. So we need to go back to the session config. Here, under image tracking, we are gonna have this candidate image, which is an array of elements. So we just need to provide here what are the images that we want it to be tracking. In our case right now, we only have one. So I'm gonna click here on this plus and then select my candidate, which is this dancer, and that's it. There's a question there. Does it matter it was set to landscape? Not really, not really. I don't know why that option exists because it doesn't. Oh, no, actually, there is one thing. No, yeah, there is one thing. This is basically defining what's the width and what is the height. So if it's landscape, we're gonna have the width in this way. Otherwise, we're gonna have it this way. So it's just basically what is gonna consider width and what is gonna consider height. But after built, it doesn't make any difference. It's just for it to estimate here. But after built, it doesn't change anything. So let's go back to the session config here. I will repeat this step so you guys can catch up. What I did here, I opened my session config, and then I placed here in the candidate image, I click on this plus just to say that I want to add one, and I select my dancer. We can have as many as you want. So if you want to create more candidates, that's okay. You can just create them. But in our case here, we just want one. And then we have here the maximum simultaneous image tracked, which is basically the maximum is 20. Remembering the documentation that it just says that the maximum is 20. So if I add more than 20 here, it's going to cap at 20. It doesn't make sense if I place like 50 here. It's not going to work. So for Android, the maximum is 20. If you just want it to track one at a time, you can just add one, and that's what's going to happen here. It's going to just track one at a time. And there we go. So now what we need to do is just, well, we need to define what we want to instantiate when this image is tracked. So we could potentially just create like a cube here, like a very boring cube. But I don't think this is interesting. So I'm going to show you guys how I got that character with that nice animation. I just bring it into here. This website by Adobe, it's called Mixamo. Not sure if you guys have heard about it before. This is super useful for us to get animations. So the way it works is, it does have animations that we can place in any character that is rigged. So we can just drop your character here and get the animations, or you can get one of the sample characters that they have. So we can, for example, just select one of those characters and then select one animation and download that animation. So we just go here and click on animations and select one. There are a couple of things that we can change regarding the animations here, how fast it goes, how much the hat turns in this case. So it doesn't really matter, just for us to test. And then I will download this here. Couple of things that are important to notice here. The first one is the format. So we want to use the Fbx format. This is the one that works the best. If you are working with Unity, you can click this Fbx for Unity. It comes with a couple of configurations that make it easier to set up in Unity. But in our case today, we are on Unreal, so it's going to be Fbx. There are a couple of options here regarding the skin. So if you just want the animation to apply to a character that already exists, you can just click on without skin. It's just going to bring only the animation. In our case here, I don't have a character, so I'm going to select with skin. Mixamo is free. You just need to set up an account. But if you guys want to play with that later, it's super, super cool, super useful for us to make a couple of tests and have some free animations and modules out there. Do we have to be the binary format for Unreal? That's a good question. I don't think so. I think it works with ASCII as well, but I have been using that with binary and it just works. So it probably works with both. All right, so similarly, if we want to import this guy on Unreal, everything that we need to do is just drag the Fbx to the Unreal editor. So here, let me go back to AR Workshop, and I want to import that here. So to make it organized, as always, I'm gonna just create a new folder and call that models. And now I will just drag the town here. And I will show you guys what is important to check. So one thing, if you notice, by default, the import animation doesn't come up here. It doesn't come checked. So if I just click import right now, it's gonna bring only the mesh, the textures, the materials, but not the animation. So we want the animations. I'm just click on import animations. And then we just click import and it's gonna bring the mesh here. While this thing imports, let me see here if I have questions that I can answer. Just a reminder, in the end of the workshop, I'm gonna be answering most of the questions in the questions tab. So if you have something there, yeah, I'll get there really soon.
Looks like his internet chopped out as well too, but let me kill some time as Jerry makes his way here. Let's see, Dario. Sorry, gentlemen, I have a hard stop at 3 p.m. Central, another meeting. Yeah, no worries. We'll send you that recording to work with. Let me just ping Jerry here and let him know that his internet had died. So, internet died, Jerry, for you. Covering for the moment. Hey, the internet gods are just not super happy with us here. But as Jerry's kind of figuring the stuff out on his end, where can we get the video record? Great question, Rachel. Oh, so it's just Livestorm for Jerry. So he's just gonna refresh. I refreshed my page. That helped. Perfect. Hey, thanks, Dario. And for you, Rachel, where can we get the recording? we're recording it right now, and we'll send it out to all of you probably an hour or so after this workshop wraps up when we put the email together. But Jerry, good seeing you, buddy.
Hello, I'm back. So this thing just froze completely.
Platform, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let me share my screen again here.
All right.
I'm sorry,
I'll catch you
guys.
later, guys. I'll catch you later.
They updated the interface, and now everything is worse than it was in the past. Ha! Just 1 second. I'm trying to click some buttons. Share screen. Screen 1. There we go. All right. So I think it's sharing. Let me see here. Do I have to install Xcode in order to run Unreal on Mac? Not really, most of us. So if you just want to have Unreal and explore with that and see how things are, it's not necessary. You only need to have Xcode if you want to build your application. If you want to build your application for iOS. So if you want to push that to the iOS, you will need to have Xcode installed. Can you guys see it just fine? Is it back? All right. So there's this thing here. Let me close it. All right. So what I did, I just imported that module in there. So now you guys can see that I have here the module and the animations and everything. So now we need to have something that is going to be instantiated when we track that particular image, right? So for that, we need to create something called an actor. So what is an actor? An actor is basically anything that we can control that can go on the scene. So I will create an empty actor here. I'll just create that, call that empty actor. Bring that. Oh, no, that's not the way I'm going to do that. I'm right-click here and click on Blueprint class. So we're going to be creating a class for our object that we want to implement here. So I just click on Blueprint, and then we select actor. So this is the type of the blueprint I want to create. I'm just going to create here and click it as actor. And we can give it any name. So, well, let's just call that character, because what I imported was a character. So this is the character that we want to instantiate when we find the image. To edit this, this blueprint, we can just double click it. And then we have here the viewport. So this is the viewport that represents what I want to instantiate as soon as I find the thing in there. What I want to do here is basically bring my module to there. So I'm going to select the taunt module and drag it here. And there is one thing here that is super important. When we're dealing with AR, we need to make things at scale. So if I just use this thing as it is, this character as it is, as soon as I instantiate that in my image tracker, it's going to be giant in my room. So sometimes that's what we want, but today I don't want it this way. I just want to be smaller in the top of the on the top of the image. So we're going to change it the scale here. I will make that a lot smaller. 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. So now it looks small here, but actually when I place that on my table, for example, or on the top of my mobile phone, it's going to be just fine. So we just need to have this actor this way. And if you want it to be animated, we can just change here the use animation asset and then select the taunt animation sequence. So it's going to be animated right now. And this image is going to be animated the way we want. So as soon as we instantiate that, it's going to be really nice animated. So now let's go back to our blueprint and let's see how we actually can make those things, track the image and instantiate the object in there. So we just need to go back to our blueprint, level blueprint. Right now, the only thing that we are doing is using the event, the begin play, the one that just instantiates in the beginning. But now every frame, I want to check if there is something being tracked. right? So every frame, I want to see if something is being tracked there. So how I do that? I'm gonna push here from the execution line and find one node that is called get AR. How it's called? It's called track geometry. Let me search that geometry. I can't remember the name of the thing. Get all AR geometries by class. So we're going to be selecting get all AR geometries by class. So what this thing does, it just tracks in the world every single trackable object that exists in there. Planes, faces, images, and everything. In our case here today, we are only working with AR image. So we're going to select this. We're going to change here the class to only AR tracked image. So now what I'm doing is every single frame in my application, just track for me all of the images in there. And then it's going to return for us an array. So if I just mouse over here, the output of this node, every node has an input and an output. The input in this case is just the class that I want to track. The output is an array, a list with all of the images that are being tracked in this particular frame. So I want to loop through all of them. If I have like 5 images, I want to track the 5 images. If I only have 1, I want to track that 1. So the easiest way to do that is just pushing here another node that is called the for each loop. The for each loop, it's going to go element by element in that array. So if I have 10 images, this is going to be running 10 times. If I have 2 images, it's going to run 2 times. Again, to be able to execute this for each loop, we need to link the execution line here. So now every frame get all of the images, loop through all of the images. And then we can do something with that image. The first thing that I want to do is I want to find out, I want to understand which image is being tracked in there. So the element here, this array element, for each one of the iterations, it's going to be one single AR tracked image. So we can just pull it from here and use a node called get detected image. So what is this node get detected image does? It's basically going to, given that it found an image, tell me what is the candidate. What was the candidate that it found there? So we can potentially, for example, get the friendly name of that image. So we can print, for example, what it is. Or we can, print the name. Well, we can do anything with this image. So what we want to do with this image right now is just instantiate something on top of that image, right? So what I want to do here is, one thing that we need to notice is that, as I said, this event tick, it's running every frame, right? So it's just like running over and over again. Let me see the chat here. This thing always freezes when I click the chat. Well, let's see if you get back. Oh, if it gets back. Glad to help. Can find the get detected image. It doesn't show up in my options. Not detect image option. Same. Which version of AR Core are you guys using? Is it the same one? It should be edit plugins AR Core at least 1.16.0. So just check if this is the newest version. If it's the older version, it wouldn't have every option here. Okay. So might be that. This is one thing that is a little bit annoying. If you just right click here and try to find that, so if get tracked image, for example, maybe it's not going to find because this context sensitive thing is checked. So it's just trying to find it based on a context. There are 2 solutions for that. The first one is you want to check the context sensitive. So it's gonna just list like everything that exists. Or what I did here, I just dragged it from the element array and released it. So now it knows the context, and the context sensitive is gonna work a little bit better. So get tracked image, context sensitive. Now it doesn't show up for me as well. Get detected image, not get tracked image. Get detected image. Oh, it's not from the array. It's from it's not from the index. It's from the element. Get tracked. Now it doesn't show up for me as well. Get tracked image. That's weird.
Get detect should be the thing, as people are saying in the chat there.
What happened?
You're putting tracked
detected.
instead of detected. All right, I'll catch you guys soon.
Thanks. There we go. This is what happens when you start working with so many technologies and the names are different from in different platforms. So I was just with the tracked image because this is how it's called in AR Foundation. But yeah, my bad. There we go. So now we have it. So is it working for everyone in there? Cool. Yeah, so the sensitive context is something that sometimes it tries to help, but it doesn't help that much. Most of the times it doesn't find what we're looking for, even though we are in the context. So most of the times, if we just want to see all of the options in there, the best thing to do is just to disable that thing. All right, so now one thing that we need to notice here, and this is super important, is that this thing is running on the update. And we're going to be tracking that image multiple times, right? So every time we're going to be tracking that image. So I don't want to instantiate the same image more than once. So in order to do that, one thing that we can do here is create a variable. We can just create a variable here. And this variable is going to be an array of all images that we already instantiated. So we can just keep track of all of the images that were instantiated already. So how we can do that? I'm going to click here on plus for creating a new variable. A variable is basically a container that I can hold data on. I can just save data on. Every variable is going to have a data type. So let's call this tracked image or something like that. Right now, this variable is a Boolean. So if I just click here on this sign, on this thing here, it's going to give me the options of all of the images that I am adding in there. I don't want to use Boolean, none of those. Actually, I want to use my actor. Need to find out how I named my actor here. Let me just see again. I can't remember. I named it character. So for now, I just want to make sure that I will only instantiate one character in the scene. If one is already there, I'm not going to instantiate another one. So I will change the type of this to character. Just make sure to use the one that shows a sphere here, because this is the actor. This other character is just a class that already exists in Unreal. So I think I should have named that something else, just not get confusing. But the one I want here is a character. The way it's set up right now, it only has one character. So I can only have one here. But I think it's better to change that to an array. So I will click on the tracked image. And here on the right, where it shows this sphere, I will click that and change it to an array instead. So now, if we find the same image twice, I'm going to instantiate like two characters, but the same character is not going to be instantiated more than once. Cool. So this array is an empty array. We need to add elements to it. We need to add elements to it. So let's see how we can actually add elements to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is if I want to manipulate this variable here, this tracked image here, I can just drag it to my blueprint. It's going to give me two options. One is get, it's going to give me the value, and the other one is set. It's going to change the value. So right now, I'm going to use the get tracked image, and I want to see if my actor is already there or not. So I just want to see if there is already the actor there or not. So let's see how we can change that in a while. But the first thing is, let's instantiate it first. So I want to put that on the scene. The way it works is basically we right click here and use one node that's called spawn actor from class. Spawn actor from class. So what this thing does is basically just creating something on the screen for me. We need to add a couple of things here. The first one is which one I want to instantiate. In our case, it's going to be the character. Just make sure it's the sphere one, not the little character one. And then I need to tell where I want to instantiate it, in which position I want to instantiate this thing. The position I want to instantiate it in is basically the position where the tracked image was found, right? There is one node that converts it, that just gets the image position in the world and gives me the corresponding position here in the level. We are going to pull that from the array element and search for get local to world transform. So we want this one, which is get local to world transform. This gives to us one a vector tree. Oh, actually, it gives us a transform. It's position, rotation, and scale. So we can just link the return value right here. So now, when this node is called, what happens here is basically it just instantiates one new character on the position of the marker that was found. But as I said previously, this thing is not called until we link the execution path here. But the thing is, if I just link the loop body right here, it's going to instantiate lots of objects and the application is going to just crash. So that's not what we want to do. I only want to instantiate it if it doesn't exist yet in the tracked image. So we need to check if it exists in the tracked image or not. To check things and branch our nodes, just to say if this is true, do one thing. If it's not true, do a second thing. There is one node called branch. So a branch is an execution control that if something is true, it goes to one path. If something is false, it goes to the other path. I only want to install this character if it doesn't exist in this list. So it's only if the false here happens. But I need to add one condition here, right? I need to check. What I want to do is check if this tracked image already exists or not. There is another useful node called contains. We can just drag it from here and search for contains item. So I can check whether this contains an item or not. And then the item that I want to check if it contains or not is basically the character. We're going to link that here in a while, but let's just finish the flow here so we don't get too far ahead. So I'm going to check in every loop here. So I'm going to link the loop and check if this contains the thing or not. If it doesn't contain, we spawn the thing. We just instantiate that. And then later on, we need to add something here, but we're going to do that in a little while here. So right now, it looks really good. just to organize it before we move a little bit further, I will create another comment here. So I'll just select everything and press C and instantiate new object. And now there is only one last step for us to make this thing work, which is basically if this already exists. So if this already exists, we want to keep updating. We want to keep updating it every frame, right? So there is one node that helps us to do it, which is going to be the set actor transform. So I'm gonna create one other here, which is called set actor transform. Again, if I don't uncheck the context sensitive, it's not gonna show. So set actor transform. This guy needs to have one. This guy needs to have one position and one target. So the target is gonna be the actor that we have just instantiated. And the transform we already have. So we just need to pull this transform again from here and add it here. So basically, every frame, I'm updating the transform again because the camera is moving, the tracker might be moving. So I just want to keep that thing every single frame updated. And when I want to do it, it already exists in the list. So I'm just going to do it here and add that to the list. So now there is only one more thing that we need to do in there. Let me see the chat here before I move forward, just to see if there's something I can help with. All right. If you guys are feeling overwhelmed by the amount of information, don't worry about that. We're gonna receive you're gonna receive the project files and the recording, so you can explore that in your own pace. Could not see the actor transform. Oh, if you're not seeing the set actor transform, it's the same thing that happened before. You just need to uncheck the context sensitive because sometimes it just hides a couple of interesting options in there. So just search for set actor and uncheck the context sensitive. So if you check for and search for set actor transform, you're gonna find that. There we go. So this context sensitive, sometimes it just doesn't help that much. And then we just pull here the true. So if already exists, we want to change that actor there. So there is only one last thing that we need to do here. Up to now, we never added anything to distract the image. So it's never there. It's never there. It was never added there. So it's always empty. Every time that we spawn it, it's going to return for us what was spawned. So we just need to add that to the particular list. So if we search here for add, we're going to have, oh, actually, we just need to first push the tracked image here. And now we want to get it again. And we are going to search for the add element. Oh, not there. How is it called for an array again? Context sensitive, utilities, array add. That's it. So if you're not finding the option, sometimes one thing that I do is if you enable, and this is when the context sensitive is useful. If you just select like one node and click on context sensitive, it's going to give you a couple of options that only exist regarding the tracked image here, which is an array. So under utilities, I have array and then add. So I just click on add. And what I want to add is basically the element that was returned right here. And I want to execute it. And that's it. So now we have this element right here, and we can set the position of it later there. So that's basically the simple workflow, like the basic workflow that we have here for creating image targets. As I said, it might be a little overwhelmed because it's a lot of information here, but you guys are going to receive the recordings, and you can go over that with the project in hand. So we can basically test how the things are, modify a couple of things here, and even explore with a couple more notes. So I will pause it here and invite Steph again back. Meanwhile, I'm going to be building here because it takes some minutes, and I can show the results in a while again. Does our word transform have to connect to set the actor transform? All right. Yeah, I will get back to the questions in a sec.
Perfect. Well, hey, thanks, Jerry. So Jerry will show the end result here when everything gets put together there. But hey, thanks everyone for sticking around. I'm going to toss in a poll here just to ask all of you who are currently still tuned in. The poll's going to be asking, first of all, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely would you be to recommend this workshop to others? For those who new to Unity and just want to see how the processes get started in a short amount of time. So I'm going to toss in the poll as soon as I find it here. There it is. So 0, you wouldn't tell anyone about it. 10, that you would recommend it to your friends. Really helps us know whether or not we should continue hosting these workshops around Unreal or some other topics there. But do let us know. It really does help us out a lot in terms of whether or not we should continue hosting these workshops. Now, for a lot of you who have joined us for these workshops previously, they tend to be around Unity-related stuff, and a lot of our courses are based around Unity. So for those of you still around, I'm going to toss in one other poll here, just to see whether or not any of you would be interested in CircuitStream launching some Unreal-related courses, some Unreal development, helping you create your own Unreal projects, VR, AR, MR. So we're going to toss in another poll here. Simple, yes, I would like to see CircuitStream have some Unreal-related courses. Maybe, not too sure. We'll have to join some more to check it out, or no, stick to Unity and don't focus on Unreal at all. Really helps us know whether or not we should start planning. We've been discussing some Unreal-related courses to launch at some point this year or next year, but that would help us out a lot. So with that, I do see we have a lot of questions in the questions tab to get to. So I'm going to do this quick wrap up, in 2-3 minutes here, and then we'll bring Jerry back to show the end result, and we'll go through all the questions in the questions tab that have been left unanswered. So I'm going to share my screen here. Make sure I click on the right one. Wow! It's going a little crazy on my end, but hey, perfect. So with this, thanks everyone for sticking around here. I hope you kind of found this useful. Feel free to ask us any other questions that you may have in the questions tab there. Upvote any questions that you want to have answered. When I do go bring those questions up, do upvote those questions so we can then go by the most upvoted to the least upvoted there, or I'll also look at when they came in and structure it by time as well. But with that, as I mentioned, we do have a lot of Unity-related courses, and we are discussing launching some Unreal-related courses later on, depending on the interest. And if people want it, we'll give it to them. But for those of you who are interested in maybe diving into some more Unreal-related stuff, and you want to sit down with instructors like Jerry to kick off a project, to get support on an Unreal project, whatever it may be, we do have these live one-on-one sessions with one of our XR experts like Jerry. It can be Unity related, it can be Unreal related, and typically it's you sit down privately, you work together in anything you would like focused on, and receive that support from someone like Jerry. And how does it work? Well, you share the details of what you need help with. Then you schedule a time that works for you each week to meet privately and get that support then and there. And then we match you with the best person to help you out with your specific interest and idea. And then we kick it off and we sit down privately with you each week to work on those together. But for those of you who might be interested in some Unity-related courses, though we did cover a lot of Unreal content, we have a beginner-friendly program in Unity, our XR Development with Unity course. April 27th is the next one. So feel free to check it out if you want to dive into Unity and then potentially transition into Unreal. And for those of you who are Unity experts, just getting your feet wet with Unreal currently, but really want to focus on Unity still, we have our XR Project Accelerator course. Both of these courses do come with private sessions each week as well to really help you develop what you're interested in creating with a member of our team. But give us a shout. Reach out to myself, my colleague Kyle, or Brendan that you may have seen in the chat. We'd love to talk to you about your ideas, see if it's something we could help you out with, or just offer you some other resources if it's something that we're unable to support you with. But check out our syllabuses or apply now at circusstream.com/learning. And again, I really thank you all for your time today and in joining us for this workshop. Let's kick it off with the questions. Actually, before the questions, I'm sure Jerry would love to show what that end result is if he's put it together yet. So let me just fix my camera here again. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. But there he is. Is it all good, Jerry? Is the project ready?
It's still building. It takes a while. Like it takes sometimes 10, 15 minutes to build on this computer. So I will let it build in here to finish. So I can get back into there. But I think we can start with the questions.
Perfect. So yeah, I'll throw in some questions here. I'm going to go by the most upvoted questions. And then closer to the end with the least voted, I'll do it by time. So if someone asked it earlier, we can cover it then and there. But I did save one question from the chat here from Deb. And Deb was asking, I'm not going to pop open this question for you, Jerry, because it was in the chat, but she was asking, do you need multiple images if the image can be multiple tracked sizes? So like a logo of a company, which can be large or small.
No, not really. You can use only one image, and it's gonna track the image regardless of the marker size. So the thing is, if you want to use that for multiple physical sizes, what can happen is that depending on the size, the track is not gonna be that good, and you can just use like an average to set up the marker. But if you create the same image multiple times, even though they have different sizes, they're gonna be considered the same image while tracking. So yeah, the size doesn't influence that much in tracking. So it just uses the features of the image, and if the logo is the same, it's gonna be basically the same.
Right, perfect. Hopefully that helped, Deb, if you're still kicking around there in the audience. But let's go with the next most upvoted question, and this one's from Eldon. And Eldon's asking, I have played around with AR in Unity, and it seems really good. What would be the reason for someone to use Unreal instead for AR? Sorry, kind of comparing the two.
Yeah, that's a tricky question. That's a really tricky question. The thing is, for AR specifically, I don't see many reasons to use Unreal at this point, because even the AR core that exists for Unreal is outdated if you compare that with Unity. So it's just like having more options is always good. But for VR, for example, Unreal has a lot of AAA features, like you can make things look beautiful easier than in Unity. So I think that for VR, those are like equivalent. You can choose Unreal if you want to have like good graphics and no effort. But for AR, I think it's a little bit trickier yet in Unreal. Like they are still in another version of AR Kit and AR Core. Lots of things that exist in Unity, they don't exist in Unreal at this point. So right now, it's quite like more of a preference. Like in Unity, you need to program a couple of things, unless you use like Mars, which is paid. So it's good to have different options. If you don't want to program, you want to use the nodes, like the visual scripting, maybe Unreal in this case is better. And I totally agree with that. Like Unity is also my favorite. I work with Unity a lot more, but Unreal is super cool. Like there are lots of cool things in Unreal as well. So knowing more tools is something that can make you stand out. So it's nice to explore the opportunities in there. But in AR, I tend to say that Unity at this point is superior for AR specifically.
Right.
It's easier to build like complex. We would do everything that we did in here with 3 clicks in Unity. It would be like 5 minutes workshop just to build this thing. So yeah, in Unreal, things are a little bit in the beginning for AR, but for VR, like there are lots of good reasons for choosing Unreal instead of Unity.
Perfect. Awesome. Hey, thanks for answering that, Jerry. And it makes sense. Yeah. Typically, I know in our Unity AR workshops, it's much quicker to set things up. But but Unreal's a very strong tool in a lot of other areas as well. So here's a question by Mustafa. And Mustafa's asking, what about Web AR? Can I create an experience in Unreal and publish it on Web AR to be viewed on the web?
No, not really. So Unreal doesn't support Web AR, and Unity doesn't either. So if you're leaning to Web AR, you need to use something like, there are a couple of commercial applications. I'm not gonna say the names because they're not paying me, but there are some free, such as A-Frame, for example, which is a free open source tool that you can use for making AR in the web, but it's not supported by either engines at this point. So not sure if they're working on something or not. I've heard a couple of things about Web VR, but not about Web AR yet. So yeah, you need to use A-Frame or AR.js, as Deb is suggesting in there. So those things, I think that they are a lot harder. Like, you need lots of work to make something simple, but that's the way to go if you want to have Web AR at this point. So this, maybe in the future we're gonna have something for the engines, but right now it's quite limited.
Right. Okay. Very interesting. I didn't know the two were missing that functionality, but very cool. Perfect. So another upvoted question here by Steve. Steve's asking, is it possible to build a location-based AR app in Unreal?
Yeah, definitely. It is. So you can have access to the GPS, and you can use cloud anchors if you want to. So all of those things are available for Unreal as well. For the cloud anchors, you need to install the application, another plugin. So it doesn't come with the plugin that we added here, but you can go to the other plugin and add it there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
Possible. It's definitely
perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that helped there, Steve. One question here from Otto, and we might have to pop open this link that he shared. But is it easy to do physical object recognition, like the Apple Park AR model experience shared in the YouTube link there?
Yeah. So that's possible in Unreal, but for iOS, that is not supported by AR Core yet. So there are a couple of workarounds. You can use like machine learning, computer vision, but the object recognition is something that is only supported by ARKit. So you can do that in Unreal with ARKit, but not for Android. So that's more on the platform than on the engine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, makes sense. Perfect. And then one question here from Adam regarding the Mixamo skins. Adam's asking, are Mixamo skins and animations free also for commercial use?
That's a good question. I don't know. You can use both characters and animations royalty-free for personal commission and no profit. Okay. So there is one link here that might help in the frequently asked questions. So one of them is exactly what you asked, if they can be used for commercial applications or not. And what says it's free for commercial use as long as the content is separately embedded within your project. That means it is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just review the license before, because they can change that any time. But at this point, they just say it's free. Both characters animations are royalty-free for personal, commercial, and non-profit projects, including incorporating characters into illustration and graphic art. So yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Hey, that was good to know. I was going to say it probably isn't, but interesting that it is. I like it.
Yeah, it is.
Perfect. Now, here's one from Brian that I was trying to research on my end in the background as well, but he was asking, can you upload pre-existing SketchUp models into Unreal?
Yeah, definitely you can. So you just need to make sure they are in a format that is compatible with Unreal. So if you can export them to FBX, for example, it's going to be super easy to get them in. But yes,
Mhm.
I've done that before and it works.
Perfect. That's good. Yeah, I was looking online and I did see an article from 4 or 5 years ago that said it was able to. Don't know if things have changed since, but
No.
awesome. Perfect. One here, there's two from Tim. Let me see if it's just a follow-up question of sorts. Doesn't look like it, but let's go with this one. Tim's asking, are there features in ARKit to utilize the LiDAR camera on iPhone 12 Max? And what is the benefit of the LiDAR camera on the iPhone? Better tracking. So we did do a workshop on this, Tim, and we could send you that workshop recording to review as well. But yeah, Jerry, take it away and add some insight.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So yeah, as Steph mentioned, we do have a work. I did run a workshop on LiDAR, and Nikisa did one as well. So we have like two workshops that are touching on how to use LiDAR. They are on Unity, but the things are similar. There are a couple of questions in there. So the first one is if we can use ARKit for LiDAR on ARKit, and the answer is yes. We have something called meshing and mesh classification. So we can, for example, scan the entire environment and know where things are, how are the shape of things, and even classify if they are walls, tables, ceiling, or there are a couple of classifications in there. So yes, it's exposed on ARKit. What are the benefits? So there are two. Better tracking is one of them. Like you already have better tracking out of the box. But the other one is that you can detect meshes. Without the LiDAR, the only thing that you can detect in iPhone devices, like the older ones, is planes. So you can find like flat surfaces, such as the table, the door, the floor, the ceiling, things like that. But with the LiDAR, you can actually find the shape of things. So if you want, for example, to make like a waterfall on your couch, you can just make that shape perfect because you can scan the mesh, the complete mesh. So you can make things work seamlessly with your environment.
Beautiful, beautiful. And then a follow-up question from Tim is, well, not follow-up, but another question that was uploaded from Tim here. Can you import media, so examples, video, audio, to play in AR?
Yeah, definitely. So you can play audio really easily. You can just play them as you want to play them. For video, you need to play them in a surface. So you can like create a plane and play them like in a hologram or something like that. You can definitely play them, but just need to have like a support for that. Like you need to place them somewhere. So you can create like a virtual TV, or you can just place that on the wall. I don't know, but you need to find like where you want to project that video, but definitely you can.
Perfect. Awesome. And then here's a question from Eldon, touching on Unity and then asking more so about Unreal here. In Unity, when we use Vuforia, we can test in the editor. For Unreal, can we test AR in the editor as well, or do we have to make a build and install it on the phone to test?
Yeah, you cannot test that directly on the editor. And that's what I'm suffering with here, because it's building forever. It's just like rebuilding all the shaders and everything. So no, the thing is, Vuforia works with some web servers. So the way Vuforia does the tracking is completely different from what ARCore does or ARKit does. It doesn't use ARCore and ARKit for the tracking. So it works with every single web camera out there. So you just need to have any web camera, it's gonna work. So that's why it works on the editor. But if you want to use ARKit or ARCore, you actually need to build to the device, and that's true for Unity and for Unreal. In Unity, there are a couple of tools that people developed, and now like Unity is developing as well, that allows you to simulate things in the editor, but not see what's going on in the editor. So yeah, it's a little bit easier. But for Unreal, there is no equivalent at this point, and Vuforia is not supported in Unreal. So if you want to use Unreal, there's no Vuforia for that.
Interesting. Perfect. No, very, very cool insights there. Then we have one from Mateo here that I can touch up on here quickly. So Mateo's asking, is there going to be any VR workshops in the near future? Yes, sir, Mateo, most definitely. We host weekly free workshops and webinars. We'll definitely have some around virtual reality as well, in Unity, potentially in Unreal as well in the future. But keep it short. We'll definitely have some VR related ones. And feel free to check out our YouTube channel or our workshops page from previous ones. We've got dozens. We held dozens of workshops around VR last year as well. One question here and we kind of touched upon it a bit earlier, but Abraham was asking also kind of an Unreal Unity difference. What use case would you use Unreal over Unity for mobile AR development?
That's a good question. So for considering you were very specific in there, like for mobile AR development, it's a matter of preference. So if you prefer, because both of them are gonna offer more like the same things, and well, they can say like, well, in Unreal you can have like better graphics in an easy way, but in mobile devices, most of the times you cannot explore everything regarding that. So specifically for this case, like mobile AR, I think it's a matter of preference, like the one that you are more comfortable with. So if you are more comfortable with Unreal, that's the way to go. If you're more comfortable with Unity, that's the way to go. So I don't think there's like a particular thing that I would say, well, Unreal has this thing and Unity doesn't, or the other way around as well. Unity has a couple of tools that makes developing of AR a lot easier, such as Unity Mars, for example, but it's not free. So if you don't want to pay anything, it's basically like a matter of preference.
Perfect. Lovely. One other question here from Mr. Wintercroft. Steve is asking, would you load both AR Core and AR Kit at the same time if you wanted to build for both platforms?
Yeah, definitely. That's possible. That's no problem with that. So you can definitely have both in the project at the same time. It's perfectly acceptable. The thing is, you will need to be on a Mac at some point to build it for the iOS, but you can have like everything in the project. So you can like version control and develop wherever you want to develop in there. So yes, you can have both.
Okay, cool.
That's
cool.
just fine.
And that's an important fact that you mentioned about the hardware you need for developing a specific thing, right? It was and if you mentioned it just now, was it you need an iOS computer for AR Kit, or was it the other way around?
You need a Mac OS. Yeah, you need a Mac OS computer for iOS in your ARKit. Yeah, the thing is, both Unreal and Unity, the engines, they can just generate an Xcode project, but you cannot publish anything to an iOS without using Xcode. And Xcode only exists in the Mac environment. So you do need to have a Mac to generate the certificates, to build the application, and even to upload that to the asset store, to the Apple Store if you want to. So you can develop everything in Windows, but if you want to publish that or build that to an iOS, at some point you need to use Xcode, and Xcode is only available on Mac.
And what about the other way around? So if someone has Mac iOS, can they then push out normally for AR Core and Android? Lovely. I know.
Yeah.
Perfect.
If you have a Mac, you have like everything. If you have a Mac, you don't even need to change. You can build for Android, you can build for iOS, you can build for everything there. Maybe you cannot build for Windows mixed reality platform. I don't know. Never tried that, but I would say it's probably not possible because it's Microsoft and Apple. But I don't know. I'm not saying it's not it's true. I just never tested it. But Android and iOS both are just fine. They're just fine.
Awesome, lovely. Then we have one question here from Manish, and I assume he's asking what level of C++ is needed to be able to work with Unreal. I would say you could start off with zero experience and slowly.
Well, I don't think so. I think at least an intermediate level.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say at least an intermediate level. Like you need to be comfortable with the syntax and with the weirdness of C++. There are lots of weird stuff in C++. I really love the language. Like it's my second favorite language after C#. But if you are comfortable with like pointers and inheritance in C++, like if you know object-oriented programming and you're comfortable with pointers, I think that's okay. Like you are gonna understand everything that is there. The thing is, if you have never seen pointers, for example, you are not gonna be able to do anything in C++ in Unreal because everything all of the things there are objects, and you need to deal with pointers. So yeah, you need to have like at least the basic knowledge of the language, this idiosyncrasies, the structure of the language, to get comfortable with how C++ works in there. But being really honest, like I prefer it over the blueprints. I really prefer like to have control of everything that I'm doing, because the blueprints sometimes they just get messy. Like you're gonna have a spaghetti in there with lots of nodes, and it's not possible to do everything. A couple of things you need to do, like some workarounds to get done. So it's nice to have like simple flows with the nodes, but for complex systems, not really. And if you know both, you can use both together. So this is one thing that I like. You can like create things with C# and with C++, I'm sorry, and then mix them with the nodes. Sam said, I've created Unreal films and have never used C++. Yeah, it's not a requirement. Like if especially for films, like it's basically the graphics and everything. But if you want to develop games, for example, it's impossible to make like a AAA game only on nodes. It's not gonna happen. Like if the behaviors start to become more complex, at some point you need to know a little bit of C++. But if you're more interested on the graphics, that's totally fine. Like you can use the nodes to make the camera move or look to something without no code, and you're going to be super happy. And this is one advantage of Unreal over Unity, I would say. Like it's a lot easier to prototype those kind of things in Unreal. Unity is moving towards there. Like they have both now, and they have the playable directors like the Cine Machine. So they have nice tools as well, but Unreal is being like that for a while. So they have like lots of different tools.
Perfect. Then one question here from Ran, and this was early on in the presentation, I believe, but what you were doing today, Jerry, is this compatible, or this workflow that you were doing, do you think it would be applicable to UE5 as well?
Yeah, it is. The only thing that you need to check is when they update the AR Core plugins, for example, because those things change super fast. So they can remove one node and rename it to a different thing. I remember like the first time I tried this, the thing that we did today, like the get all image, get all track geometry by class, that didn't exist. So you had to use get all image or get all faces. And now they just have one class with the option. So it changes quite fast because they are improving the tool and adding more stuff in there. So that's the only thing that might change. Like with new versions of AR Core, they're going to be adding different things in there. But overall, it's the same thing.
Awesome. And then now we're down to, how many more questions do we have here? A few more questions, but I did see some in the chat that I would hate to lose. Where was it? This one was from Remy, and it's in the chat, so I'll mention it to you here, Jerry. Can you use an event to detect new images instead of pooling every frame?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. So maybe at some point, but that's not how the AR session works. So it just like fills an array with image. So at the way it's designed right now, you need to actually query that every frame, and that's true. That's true for Unreal, for Unity as well. No, that's not. No, yeah, in Unreal we have the events because they just like they changed that on the AR Foundation just incorporates that and makes that a little bit easier. But right now with the version that we have for AR Core here, it's not no, it's not possible yet.
Perfect. And hey, Maddie just reminded me to check in with you again. Is the final result ready? Has it been? Oh, completely forgot. Thanks, Maddie.
Yeah. So it's still building, but what I can do here is just show the one that I have built previously. It's the same thing. Okay. The only difference is the module. Like I got a different module while we were building. And this is the one you're gonna be receiving anyway. So
perfect. So we'll let you get that up and running here. And then I'll scan through some more questions. And then Manish had a question, when will be the next Unreal workshop? Hey, seems like people did enjoy this one, so we'll probably get one going if not within the next month, in a couple of months here. But keep your eye out on the emails Deon sends from our marketing team, because he'll be sure to highlight those new Unreal events that we'll be launching based on people enjoying it or not. Let's see. Oh, so you got your screen shared?
Yeah. Oops. So it's basically something like this. Like this guy just spawned. Wait. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a huge delay. Yeah, there's a huge delay while I move the thing. But basically, the basic idea is that, like, well, this the focus now is terrible. That's basic. Yeah. So, well, let me move that this way. Let's see if it improves a little bit. Not that good.
Yeah, it's off a little bit, but we see
there
it. We see this little guy.
Yeah, if it's closer a little bit, it's gonna work better. Like if you have, as we said in the beginning, like the image needs to cover at least 25% of the screen. So the way I'm doing it is here, like there is the backlight of the screen, so it's not the best way of tracking. Actually, it was made for you to use printed image, so it's gonna work a lot better. But you can see now that I bring it closer, that is a lot better already. So yeah, what it's doing is just like it's spawning on the center of this guy, and if I rotate it, it rotates as well. So it's just tracking the position and the rotation of the image in there, and repositioning this guy based on that. So that's basically it. Like the easiest way, of the simplest form of having an image tracker in there. And again, like this is, I'm using this phone just because I don't have a printer. But if you can print the image, it's gonna look a lot better because you don't have like the backlight that influences in the thing here. So it was actually based on printed markers. But it works. Like if the image is good quality and if you're close enough and the lighting is fine, as you can see here, like it just works.
Woo! Cute. Awesome. Hey, thanks for showing that, Jerry. Appreciate it. And thanks for reminding us, Maddie. Wonderful. So we do still have, let's see, several questions, I believe, that are unanswered here. So let's bring them up. How's your schedule looking, Jerry, in terms of you got anything, any commitments at the top of the hour?
Yeah, I did, but I can stay a couple more minutes. I can answer the other questions that are in there.
Perfect. So let's try and fly through them then, because I would hate to leave some unanswered. So this one's from Dennis. Dennis is asking, is it possible to create a user interface for AR applications, not just placing the objects?
Yeah, definitely. So that's basically the simplest thing that you can do. You can create a widget. If you're talking about Unreal, you can create a widget and just position that the way we want to do. The thing that you need to take in consideration is how we want this to work. Because when you're talking about AR, there are two ways of placing the interface. The first one is the screen space. Like the elements, they're just on the screen. It's like buttons and things that are on the screen. Or you can make them word space. So you can just like make them have positioning the word, and you can position them like relatively to the character, for example. So you can have like a floating button on top of the character. So you can even use like a 3D object to have like a nice interface that connects with the world. In this case, you need to have like ray casting to select those things. When you click, you just calculate the ray hit, but that's not too hard to do. That's something that can be done.
Perfect. Awesome. Hope that helped there, Dennis. One question here from Remy again. Remy's asking, can you get an event when a new image is tracked instead? I believe we answered this one. We did. Instead of pulling everything.
I did answer that. So right now, at least in Unreal, that's not possible. Right now, it's not possible.
Right. I'm such a goof. Why didn't I remember this? All right. Another question here from Emmanuel. Emmanuel's asking, can a VR tour created in UE4 be published for mobile as well?
Yes. So it is possible. So the thing that you need to take into account is that VR requires you to have a headset somehow. Like you need to have the two things rendered and somehow make that. So what people usually do for mobile is using the Google Cardboard, for example. So you just like place that into the cardboard and then you render the image twice. And then the lenses just merge the image together and you have the full view. So yes, that's possible. But for mobile, you need to have like a Google Cardboard, for example, or something similar.
Google Cardboard. I saw the Google Cardboard plastic. Did you see that video?
Yeah.
No jokes. Anyways, continuing on. From our man Daryl. Daryl's asking, is there a resource to help understand scripting concepts between Unity and Unreal or vice versa? So Daryl's new to learning Unity and C#. He's actually in our C# course starting next week, if not already, the one in February, and would like to try to expand knowledge to both, specifically with blueprints.
Yeah, that's a good question. Help understand scripting concepts between Unity and Unreal. I have never seen anything like that. I can try to find it. If it doesn't exist, we can produce it. But the concepts are pretty similar. They're just like named differently. So like in Unity, you have the start, and here's the event. It's called begin play. In Unity, you have the update, and here it's the event tick. So everything exists in both. Like Unity, you have the hierarchy, and here it's called I can't remember how it's called. But basically, the two things, they are they have like the concepts are the same. So I think this cheat sheet would be nice. I have never seen something like that. If it doesn't exist, we can write it. Dayan's there. He's gonna.
He's putting together something.
Yeah, he's gonna ping me about it later. But yeah, I think we can write something like that if we don't find any good resources. That would be something super interesting to have.
Perfect. Please make the chat stream. And okay, so here's one from Ken. Please make the chat stream and its helpful links available. Yeah, we'll try and do that for you there, Ken. I'll just pop it open for Dayon to see as well. Please make the chat stream and its helpful links available. Stream.
Go with the replay.
Yeah, so this will replay right away. I'm just not entirely sure if the chat will be included in the recording, but
I think
we'll look into it.
Yeah, I can remember. I think I've seen that. I think it does in the replay, but I might be wrong.
And then here's one from Melbourne asking a question, and it was in the chat earlier, we didn't get to, but how could we get augmented reality to be implemented for toys e-commerce? Who could it be used, if that makes sense?
I don't know what this thing is. Toys e-commerce.
Yeah, let us know in the chat here, Melbourne, but
let me see. I don't know. I if you can like elaborate on what the toys e-commerce is. It's just like selling toys, like because if that's the case, I've seen lots of applications like that. There is a company, I can't remember the name, but there's one company that all of their toys, if you just point the app that they have to the boxes, they do stuff like they instantiate a castle and you can play with that. So I'm not really sure I understand the question, but if it's about like how we can use AR to leverage the e-commerce of toys, you can, for example, like have the image on your website, and when people point the camera in there, they just see the toy and interact with the toy before they buy it. So that's a possibility. Not sure if I got it, but if that's a
let us know in the chat, Melvin. Perfect. So let's do two more questions here, because I do know that you're running a tight schedule here, Jerry. So let me poke around, see what we may have missed. There's still a few of them that we didn't get to. I'm just going to see if anything else was upvoted. Here's one from Harshit. Let's see. So Harshit's asking, say I create something that points towards a certain location. The user has selected on a map, but guide them through it via AR, and when they reach their destination, I want an animation to pop up, kind of like what popular Twitch streamers use. briefly, not going into too much depth, Jerry, how would someone approach that?
That's not easy. It's possible, but it's quite complex. You need to use probably word anchors, like a service, online service that can detect where you are, or depending on there's so many variables in there. Like it depends. Is it inside of a building or outside of a building? So if it's inside of a building, and if you have a LiDAR, you can just like map the environment and use a technique called simultaneous location and mapping. But if it's outside, it's going to be quite hard. So you probably need to use a combination of GPS and cloud anchors. Yeah, it's quite of a complex. If we're building something like that, you can reach out to staff later to book some one-on-ones with us, like a couple of consultation one-on-ones, and we can build that together. But that's gonna require some work and some understanding of the real scenario in there, like how we're gonna be using that, what is the end goal, and what are the tools that we have. So this is quite a hard one to answer, but that's possible.
Perfect. So let's do 2 more questions here. And then for all the other questions we didn't answer, we'll note it down, join our Slack channel, ask them there, or we'll get back to you. But I've got 2 questions here. This one's from Minas. Minas asking, for head-mounted display AR Unreal or Unity, apart from graphics, what else each platform can offer?
Yeah, so I'm gonna lean towards Unity again on that question. In Unity, the XR stack is super well defined. So you can just develop that once and plug the providers in there, the native providers. So you can, for example, make that work, the same code work for HoloLens and for Magic Leap, for example, in an easy way. In Unreal, it's going to be a little bit more tricky. You need to integrate the SDKs separately, and there's nothing that wraps them around, as in Unity we have AR Foundation. So if you're planning to target multiple platforms more than just iOS and Android, it's going to be a little bit harder to do in Unreal than in Unity. So yeah, and that one I think I would lean towards Unity, just because it's really cross-platform. Like it was made to work like that, and we have AR Foundation, which is basically wrap around everything else. So you just write once, and the plugin management system is going to allow you to bring the providers, and the subsystems are just going to work together. In Unreal, it's not that tighted yet. Like things are very silhouette, if I can say it. So it makes it a little bit harder to make it work for like multiple HMD AR devices. But everything that you can do in one, you can do in the other one. It's just that for this specific case, I think that Unity might be easier.
Perfect. Awesome. So we'll wrap this one up. And then last question here, and we'll have to end it off at this, but we have noted them down, and we'll hopefully get back to all these other questions. This one's from James, and James is asking, last minute question, could Unreal or Unity using AR present how a 3D printer will print a design?
Yeah, definitely. I've seen someone doing that before. If I can find the link, I can show that. I can send that to you, but that's definitely a possibility. So you can just like make the AR application that is gonna show what's the path, like how the printer is gonna work. Yes, this is a really good idea. I've seen someone doing that before. It's been a couple of months. If I can find it, I can share with you. But that's definitely possible in both, in either Unreal or Unity. It's possible to do it.
Beauty. Awesome. Well, hey, we'll wrap it up there, folks. Thank you all again for joining us on this workshop here. A little different from all the other ones we host, usually Unity related. But Jerry, thank you so much for joining us today and showing us the Unreal side of things. It was unreal. Get it? But and all of you, Maddie, Steve, Mustafa, Daryl, Manish, everyone else who had asked questions, James, thank you so much for joining us on this workshop and sticking around to the very end. Great questions you had all asked. Join our Slack channel for any, other questions you have, or to chat with the members of our team. Simona, thank you as well. Pleasure to have you. with this, we will conclude this workshop and webinar. We do have one next week as well for those who are located abroad, the HoloLens workshop. Check it out on our workshops page. But stay tuned to more Unreal content. It seems like you all really loved it and enjoyed this one today. And Jerry, again, thank you so much for your time.
All
Really
right. Thanks everyone for joining. I hope it helped at least you guys to get started and understand like the workflow. If you joined the Slack, feel free to reach out to me if you're having any problems in there, or if you want to discuss like best practice or any questions that you might have and we didn't have time to answer here. So feel free to reach out. I will be there on the Slack channel.
Awesome. And Prasen, happy Easter as well. James, thanks, Sam. Melvin just made a comment there, but we'll take it offline and I'll find your email, Melvin, and we'll get back to you. But thank you again, everyone. Jerry, the man, the myth, the legend, thank you as well. Obrigado. And hope to see you all again on another workshop, our courses on Slack, wherever it may be. Thank you all again and have a wonderful day.
See you guys.
Bye.